Marcus Chen had always been a heavy sleeper, but the gentle humming sound filtering through his bedroom wall was something new. He rolled over in his cramped apartment bed, squinting at the red numbers on his alarm clock. 3:17 in the morning. His roommate Zach must be having another one of his late-night study sessions. When Marcus had answered the Craigslist ad 6 months ago, he hadn't expected much. The rent was cheap, the location was decent, and his new roommate seemed clean and quiet. Zach kept to himself mostly, paid his share of utilities on time, and never left dirty dishes in the sink. The perfect roommate, really. Sure, he was a bit odd. He never seemed to eat normal food, preferring strange supplements he ordered online, and he always wore long sleeves even in the summer heat. But everyone had their quirks. The humming grew louder, accompanied by what sounded like soft clicking noises. Marcus groaned and pulled his pillow over his head. He had an early shift at the warehouse tomorrow, and he needed every minute of sleep he could get. The sounds continued for another few minutes, before finally fading away. When his alarm buzzed at 6, Marcus stumbled to the kitchen to make coffee. Zach's bedroom door was closed, as usual. In all the months they'd lived together, Marcus had never actually seen inside that room. Zach always emerged fully dressed and left early, returning late in the evening. Sometimes Marcus wondered if his roommate even had a job, but the rent money always appeared on schedule. The workday dragged on as usual. Marcus operated a forklift in a massive distribution center, moving pallets of goods from trucks to storage areas. It was mindless work that left plenty of time for thinking. Lately, he'd been wondering more and more about Zach's strange habits. The guy never seemed to shower. At least Marcus never heard water running in the bathroom when Zach was home. He never used the kitchen except to grab bottled water from the fridge. And there were those weird deliveries that came every week, unmarked packages that Zach always collected personally. When Marcus returned home that evening, Zach's door was open for once. This was unusual enough that Marcus paused in the hallway, glancing toward the room. What he saw made him do a double take. The space was completely empty of normal furniture. No bed, no dresser, no desk. Instead, there were strange metallic panels covering the walls and what looked like a large glowing crystal suspended from the ceiling. Before he could get a better look, Zach appeared in the doorway, quickly pulling the door shut behind him. "Hey, Marcus," Zach said in his usual soft voice. "How was work?" Marcus studied his roommate's face. Zach's features were sharp and angular, with pale skin that never seemed to tan despite the California sun. His eyes were an unusual shade of gray-green that seemed to shift in different light. "Fine," Marcus replied slowly. "What's with all the equipment in your room?" "Art installation," Zach said without missing a beat. "I'm working on a sculpture project for a class." It seemed like a reasonable explanation, except Marcus had never seen Zach with art supplies or heard him mention taking any classes. But it wasn't really his business what his roommate did in his own room. "Cool," Marcus said, heading to his own bedroom. "Just try to keep the noise down tonight, okay? I didn't sleep well last night." Zach's expression flickered for just a moment, something unreadable crossing his features. "Of course. Sorry about that." That night, Marcus made sure to close his bedroom door firmly and even stuffed a towel underneath it to block any sound. But around 2 in the morning, he woke to a strange sensation. The air in his room felt different somehow. Charged, like the moments before a thunderstorm. A soft blue light was seeping under his door, pulsing rhythmically. Curiosity finally overcame caution. Marcus crept to his door and opened it just a crack. The hallway was filled with that same blue glow emanating from beneath Zach's door. The humming sound was back, but now it was accompanied by something else. A voice, speaking in what sounded like no language Marcus had ever heard. The words were melodic and strange, rising and falling in complex patterns. Marcus found himself drawn forward, step by careful step, until he was standing right outside Zach's room. The light was brighter here, almost hypnotic in its gentle pulsing. Without really thinking about what he was doing, Marcus reached for the door handle and slowly turned it. The door swung open silently, and Marcus stepped inside. The sight that greeted him defied everything he thought he knew about reality. The room had been completely transformed into something that belonged on a spaceship rather than in a dingy apartment. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star charts and streams of incomprehensible data. The glowing crystal he'd glimpsed earlier was now pulsing in sync with the blue light, suspended in what appeared to be some kind of energy field. And there, in the center of it all, stood Zach. Except it wasn't exactly Zach anymore. His human appearance was shimmering and translucent, like a projection. Underneath, Marcus could see his roommate's true form, tall and graceful, with skin that had a subtle metallic sheen and large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the light like jewels. His hands ended in long, delicate fingers that moved over glowing control surfaces with impossible speed and precision. Marcus must have made some sound because Zach suddenly turned around. For a moment, their eyes met across the impossible space of the transformed room. Marcus saw surprise, fear, and something else in those alien features, something that might have been regret. "I can explain," Zach said, and his voice was different now, carrying harmonics that made the words seem to come from everywhere at once. But Marcus was already backing away, his mind reeling. His legs felt weak, and he groped for the door frame to steady himself. This couldn't be real. He had to be dreaming, or having some kind of breakdown. People didn't just room with aliens. Things like this didn't happen to guys who worked in warehouses and struggled to pay rent. "Marcus, please," Zach said, taking a step forward. As he moved, his human disguise flickered back into place, but now Marcus could see through it to the being underneath. "I need you to understand that I never meant for you to see this." "What are you?" Marcus managed to whisper. Zach, or whatever his real name was, hesitated. "My species doesn't have a word you could pronounce. In your language, the closest translation would be observer." "Observer of what?" "Humanity. Your species, your culture, your development. I was sent here to study and report back to my people." Marcus's mind was spinning. "Study us? Like lab rats?" "No," Zach said quickly. "Not like that at all. Your species is approaching a critical point in its development. Soon you'll be ready for contact with the greater galactic community. My job is to determine how that contact should be handled. And living with me is part of your research?" Zach's alien features shifted in what might have been embarrassment. "Initially, yes. I needed to observe human daily life up close, to understand your social structures and behaviors. But," he paused, as if searching for the right words. "That changed." "What do you mean?" "I mean that somewhere along the way, this stopped being just research. You're not just a subject to study anymore, Marcus. You're my friend, and that's complicated." Marcus stared at his roommate, his alien roommate, trying to process everything he was seeing and hearing. The rational part of his mind was still insisting this had to be some kind of elaborate prank or hallucination. But the evidence was right there in front of him, impossible to deny. "So all this time," Marcus said slowly, "while I've been worrying about rent and working double shifts, you've been filing reports about me to some alien government?" "It's not like that," Zach protested. "And I stopped including personal details in my reports months ago. I only send general observations about human society now." "Because I'm your friend," Marcus said, and he couldn't keep the sarcasm out of his voice. Zach's disguise flickered again, and Marcus caught a glimpse of genuine emotion in those multifaceted eyes. "Yes, because you're my friend. Because you never judged me for being different. because you shared your food with me even when money was tight, and you stayed up with me when I told you I was sick, even though you had to work the next day. Because you're a good person, Marcus, and you deserve better than being deceived." The sincerity in Zach's voice made Marcus pause. He thought about the past 6 months, about all the little moments that had made up their shared life. Zach helping him move his furniture when he hurt his back. The way Zach always left the last cup of coffee for Marcus in the morning. The strange but comfortable conversations they'd had about everything from movies to philosophy. "How much of it was real?" Marcus asked quietly. "All of it," Zach said immediately. "The friendship, the conversations, the way I care about what happens to you. All of that was real. The only thing that was fake was my appearance." Marcus looked around the transformed room again, taking in the impossible technology and the soft, alien glow. "So what happens now? Do you call your space police and have me memory wiped or something?" Zach actually smiled at that, and even in his alien form, the expression was familiar. "This isn't a movie, Marcus. My people don't operate that way. But," his expression grew serious, "this does create a problem. You're not supposed to know about us yet. First contact protocols exist for a reason." "What kind of problem?" "I'll have to report this incident. My superiors will want to know how my cover was compromised and what you've learned. They'll make a decision about how to handle the situation." Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. "What kind of decision?" "I don't know," Zach admitted. "It could be anything from allowing you to keep your memories to relocating you somewhere isolated. Or," he trailed off. "Or what?" "Or deciding that early individual contact was always part of the plan, and using this as an opportunity to begin the next phase." Marcus sat down heavily on the floor, his legs finally giving out completely. "I can't believe this is happening. 6 hours ago, my biggest worry was whether I'd get overtime this week." Zach moved closer, his movements graceful and somehow more natural in his true form. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I never wanted you to get caught up in this. When I was assigned to live among humans, I thought it would be simple. Observe, report, maintain distance. I didn't expect to actually care about any of you." "Any of us? Are there others like you?" "Observers?" "Yes, scattered around the world. But I'm the only one in this region. And as far as I know, I'm the only one whose cover has been blown." Marcus looked up at his alien roommate, his friend, and felt a strange mixture of fear and fascination. "What's your real name?" Zach's form shimmered slightly. "The closest your language could come would be HFY, but Zach is fine. I've grown rather attached to it." "HFY?" Marcus repeated slowly. "And your people, what are they like?" "Curious, cautious. We've been watching your species for a long time, waiting for you to mature enough for contact. Some of my people believe humans are too aggressive, too unpredictable. Others think you have great potential." "And what do you think?" HFY was quiet for a long moment, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the strange light of his technology. "I think humans are more complex than either side gives them credit for. You're capable of great violence, yes, but also incredible compassion. You're destructive and creative in equal measure. You're absolutely fascinating." Marcus found himself oddly touched by the assessment. "So what happens next? Do I get to meet your boss?" "I don't know," HFY said honestly. "I have to send a report immediately. The communication delay to my homeworld is significant, so it will be several of your days before I receive instructions. Until then." He gestured around the room, and slowly the alien technology began to fold in on itself, returning to the mundane appearance Marcus remembered. "I suppose we continue as we were." "Just like that? Pretend I didn't see any of this?" "Can you?" HFY asked, and there was something almost hopeful in his voice. Marcus stood up slowly, his mind still reeling from everything he'd learned. I don't know. This is a lot to process. I understand. And Marcus? Zephai's human disguise was fully back in place now, but Marcus could still sense the alien presence underneath. Whatever my superiors decide, I want you to know that these months have meant something to me. You've shown me things about humanity that no amount of observation could have taught me. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He turned and walked back to his own room, closing the door behind him. As he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept running through his mind. His life had just become infinitely more complicated, and he had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Marcus called in sick to work the next day. He couldn't imagine operating heavy machinery while his brain was still trying to process the fact that his roommate was an alien spy. Instead, he sat in the kitchen drinking coffee and watching Sci-Fi move around the apartment with new eyes. Everything about his roommate made sense now. The way he never seemed to eat regular food, the strange sleeping schedule, the packages that arrived weekly. Even the way Sci-Fi walked seemed different once Marcus knew what to look for, too fluid, too precise, like someone consciously controlling every movement. You're staring, Sci-Fi observed, settling into the chair across from Marcus with his usual cup of water. Sorry, it's just, everything's different now. I keep noticing things I never saw before. Like what? Marcus studied his roommate's human disguise. You don't blink enough, and your breathing is too regular. Real humans are messier than that. Sci-Fi smiled ruefully. I'll make a note to add more randomness to my biological mimicry. Any other suggestions? This is so weird, Marcus said, shaking his head. Yesterday I thought my biggest problem was you being too perfect as a roommate. Turns out you literally are too perfect. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Despite everything, Marcus found himself relaxing. Whatever else Sci-Fi was, he was still the same person Marcus had shared late-night conversations with. Still the guy who always remembered to buy milk when they were running low. Can I ask you something? Marcus said finally. Anything? When you first moved in here, what did you think of me? Sci-Fi considered the question carefully. Honestly? I thought you were a perfect test subject. Isolated, financially struggling, no close family ties, someone who wouldn't be missed if things went wrong. Marcus winced. Ouch. But I was wrong about that, Sci-Fi continued quickly. You have friends at work who worry about you. You call your sister in Portland every Sunday. You volunteer at the animal shelter on weekends when you can afford the time. You're not isolated at all. You're connected to dozens of people in small but meaningful ways. It was one of the first things that surprised me about human social structures. You've been watching me that closely? It was my job, Sci-Fi said simply. But also, you're interesting. Most humans I observed from a distance seemed predictable, driven by obvious motivations. You do things that don't make logical sense. Like what? Like sharing your lunch with that new worker, even when you couldn't afford to buy another one. Like staying late to help your supervisor when she was overwhelmed, even though you don't get paid overtime. Like rescuing that stray cat last month and spending your grocery money on vet bills. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Those weren't big deals. They were to me, Sci-Fi said. My species values efficiency and logic above almost everything else. Watching you consistently choose kindness over self-interest was educational. Before Marcus could respond, there was a sharp knock at the door. Both of them froze. It was barely 10 in the morning on a Thursday. They weren't expecting anyone. Stay here, Sci-Fi whispered, his human facade flickering slightly around the edges. He moved to the window and peered out carefully. There's a black sedan outside. Government plates. Government? Marcus felt his heart rate spike. Like FBI government? Worse, Sci-Fi said grimly. Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. They monitor alien activity on Earth. There's a department for that? There's a department for everything, Marcus. And they're very good at their job. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. A woman's voice called out, "Mr. Chen? Mr. Zolani? We know you're in there. We just want to talk." "Zolani?" Marcus whispered. "My cover identity," HFY explained. "And they're not here to talk. If they knew I was here, they would have come with a full tactical team." "So what do they want?" "You," HFY said quietly. "Somehow they know you've been exposed to alien contact. The question is how." Marcus's mind raced. "Could someone have seen the light from your room last night?" "Possible, but unlikely. I had dampening fields active." HFY paused, thinking. "Unless... Marcus, have you told anyone about me, about what you saw?" "No, of course not. Who would I tell?" "Hey, guess what? My roommate's an alien." "Think carefully. Any phone calls, text messages, social media posts?" Marcus ran through his activities from the previous night and that morning. "I called in sick to work, but I just said I had a stomach bug. I didn't... Wait. What? I Googled signs your roommate might be an alien around 3 this morning. I thought I was being paranoid, but..." HFY's expression darkened. "Government monitoring algorithms flag certain search patterns. That would definitely trigger an investigation." The knocking stopped, replaced by the sound of electronic beeping. "They're bypassing the lock," HFY said. "We have maybe 30 seconds." "To do what?" "To decide if you trust me." Marcus looked at his alien roommate, his friend who had deceived him but also protected him, who had studied him but also cared about him. "What are you suggesting?" "I can get us out of here, but it means abandoning your human life. No more job, no more apartment, no contact with anyone you know. You'd be entering my world, and there's no guarantee you'd ever be able to go back." "And if I stay?" "The DEA will debrief you. They'll extract everything you know about me, then decide whether to recruit you, relocate you, or..." HFY didn't finish the sentence. The apartment door swung open, and 3 figures in dark suits entered. The woman in the lead was tall and severe-looking, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her 2 companions were younger men who moved like military personnel. "Mr. Chen," the woman said, showing a badge that read, "Agent Sarah Mills, DEA. I'm afraid we need to have a conversation about your roommate." Marcus glanced at HFY, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. Time to make a choice. "What roommate?" Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I live alone." Agent Mills smiled coldly. "Mr. Chen, we have satellite footage of thermal anomalies in this building, electromagnetic signatures consistent with off-world technology, and search records from your personal computer. Playing ignorant won't help anyone." "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus insisted. "Where is Zach Zolani?" one of the younger agents demanded. "Who?" Agent Mills sighed. "Mr. Chen, we're trying to do this the easy way. Your roommate is an extraterrestrial entity operating illegally on American soil. Harboring him makes you an accessory to several federal crimes. Cooperate now and we can work something out. Keep lying, and you'll be spending the rest of your life in a very small, very secure room." Marcus felt HFY tense beside him. His roommate's human disguise was holding, but Marcus could see the effort it was taking. "I want a lawyer," Marcus said. "This matter falls under the Extraterrestrial Security Act," Agent Mills replied. "Legal representation is not available for matters of galactic security." "That's convenient," Marcus muttered. Agent Mills stepped closer. "Mr. Chen, let me be very clear. We know an alien has been living in this apartment for the past 6 months. We know you've had extensive contact with it. What we don't know is whether you're a willing collaborator or an innocent victim. Your answers will determine which category you fall into." Marcus looked around the apartment, at the mismatched furniture he'd accumulated over the years, at the photos on the walls, at the life he'd built for himself. It wasn't much, but it was his. and now these people were threatening to take it all away. Even if I knew what you were talking about, he said slowly, why should I trust you? You break into my home, threaten me, tell me I don't have rights. How is that different from what you're accusing my supposed roommate of? Agent Mills exchanged glances with her companions. Because we're human, Mr. Chen. We're on your side. Are you? Marcus asked. Because right now, you're the ones pointing weapons at me. It was true. Both younger agents had their hands resting on their holstered guns, ready to draw at the first sign of trouble. The entity you've been living with is not your friend, Agent Mills continued. It's been studying you, collecting data about human behavior to report back to its superiors. You're nothing more than a lab rat to these creatures. Marcus felt HFY flinch at that, and something protective surged up inside him. You know what? Even if that were true, at least he never broke into my home or threatened me. He's been a better roommate than most humans I know. Mr. Chen, Agent Mills said, her voice taking on a warning tone, you're walking a very dangerous line. So are you, Marcus replied, surprising himself with his boldness. This is still America, right? I still have rights, even if you don't want to acknowledge them? The standoff stretched for several tense moments. Then Agent Mills nodded to one of her companions, who pulled out a device that looked like a cross between a tablet and a scanner. Electromagnetic signature is strongest near the back bedroom, he reported. Whatever was here, it's been gone for at least 12 hours. Marcus tried to keep his expression neutral, even as relief flooded through him. Somehow HFY was managing to mask his presence from their detection equipment. He ran, Agent Mills said, more to herself than to Marcus, probably triggered by the search query last night. She turned back to Marcus. This isn't over, Mr. Chen. We'll be watching this place, monitoring your communications, tracking your movements. If your alien friend tries to contact you, we'll know. Good luck with that, Marcus said. I told you, I live alone. After the agents left, Marcus and HFY sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Marcus spoke. 12 hours? How did you mask yourself from their scanners? Practice, HFY said simply. My people have been evading human detection for decades, but it won't work indefinitely. They'll be back with better equipment. So what do we do? HFY turned to look at him. We? Marcus, you don't understand what you're getting into. If you help me, there's no going back to your normal life. These people don't forgive or forget. Maybe I don't want to go back, Marcus said. Maybe I'm tired of my normal life. Dead-end job, tiny apartment, no real future to speak of. At least with you, things are interesting. Interesting can get you killed. So can boring, Marcus pointed out. At least this way, I get to choose. HFY studied him for a long moment. You realize what you're saying? You're choosing to trust an alien spy over your own government. I'm choosing to trust my friend, Marcus corrected. The alien spy part is just bonus weirdness. Despite everything, HFY smiled. My superiors are going to be very confused by my next report. Speaking of which, have you heard back from them yet? No, but I expect to within the next day or two. The communication lag is significant. HFY paused. Marcus, there's something else you should know. The fact that the DEA found us this quickly suggests they have better intelligence than I thought. It's possible they've been tracking me for longer than either of us realized. What does that mean? It means my mission here might already be compromised. And if that's the case, then keeping you in the dark was pointless from the beginning. Marcus felt a chill. So I was never really safe. No, HFY said quietly. I'm sorry, I thought I was protecting you by maintaining the deception, but I may have just delayed the inevitable. Then we'd better figure out what to do next, Marcus said, because something tells me those agents aren't going to give up easily. As if summoned by his words, Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed his supervisor at work. "Marcus," came Janet's worried voice when he answered. "Are you okay? There were some people here asking questions about you. Government types. They wanted to know about your work schedule, who you talk to, if you've been acting strange lately." Marcus met HFY's eyes. "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that you're one of our most reliable workers and you've never caused any trouble." "But Marcus, they seemed really serious. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Janet. Just a case of mistaken identity, I think. Thanks for not throwing me under the bus." "Of course. But maybe you should come in tomorrow if you're feeling better. Show them you're just a normal guy, you know?" After Marcus hung up, HFY shook his head. "They're mapping your entire social network. Standard procedure for a potential security threat." "Great. So my friends and co-workers are going to be interrogated because of me." "I'm sorry, Marcus. I never wanted anyone else to get involved." Marcus stood up and started pacing. "Okay, let's think about this logically. The government thinks you're a threat, and I'm either your accomplice or your victim. Your people don't know I exist yet, but they will soon. And now my friends are being questioned." He stopped pacing and looked at HFY. "What would happen if I just disappeared? If I walked away from all of this and started over somewhere else?" "They'd find you," HFY said without hesitation. "The DEA has resources you can't imagine. New identity, new location, none of it would matter. And disappearing would just confirm their suspicions about your involvement with me. So my choices are cooperate with the government, disappear and spend my life running, or—" Marcus trailed off. "Or come with me when I leave," HFY finished. "Which, as I mentioned, means abandoning your human life completely." "What would that actually involve?" "Hypothetically speaking," HFY was quiet for a moment, considering. "It would mean leaving Earth. My people have outposts throughout the galaxy, and some of them host human refugees, people who've had contact with us and can't safely return to their normal lives." "Human refugees? How many people know about you guys?" "More than you might think. Fewer than the conspiracy theorists believe. First contact is a gradual process, Marcus. We've been slowly introducing select humans to the galactic community for decades, preparing your species for eventual full disclosure." Marcus absorbed this information. "And these human refugees, they're happy?" "Most of them, yes. They get to see wonders beyond imagination, to be part of something larger than one small planet. But they also give up everything familiar, family, culture, their entire way of life." "No going back?" "Not to the life they had before, no." Marcus nodded slowly. It was a lot to process, but one thing was becoming clear. His old life was already over, whether he wanted to admit it or not. The question now was what kind of new life he wanted to build. Outside, a car engine started up. Through the window, Marcus could see the black sedan pulling away from the curb, but he had no illusions that they were really gone. Somewhere out there, people were watching, waiting for him to make his next move. The question was, what would that move be? The answer came 2 days later, when HFY received his orders from home. Marcus was making breakfast when his roommate emerged from his room, his human disguise flickering more noticeably than usual. It was a tell Marcus had learned to recognize. HFY's emotional state affected his ability to maintain the illusion. "You heard from your people," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. HFY nodded, settling into his usual chair. "My superiors are displeased with the situation, but they're also intrigued." "Intrigued how?" "Apparently your response to discovering my true nature was not what they expected from human psychological profiles. Most humans who learn about us either react with fear and hostility or become obsessed with proving our existence to others. You did neither." Marcus poured 2 cups of coffee, sliding one across the table. HFY had never drunk coffee before his cover was blown, but he'd started accepting it after Marcus learned the truth. Another small gesture of friendship. "So what did I do that was so special?" "You protected me," HFY said simply. "Even when government agents threatened you, even when cooperation would have been safer for you personally, you chose to shield me from discovery. My superiors find this unprecedented." "It's called loyalty," Marcus said. "Maybe you guys need to update your psychological profiles." HFY smiled at that. "That's exactly what they've decided to do." "Marcus, my orders have changed. Instead of simple observation, I'm now tasked with deeper integration studies, and you've been designated as a primary research partner." "What does that mean?" "It means you're no longer just an accidental security breach. You're now an official part of First Contact protocols." "Congratulations. You're one of the first humans selected for formal diplomatic relations with my people." Marcus set down his coffee cup carefully. "Just like that? I don't get a choice in the matter?" "Of course you have a choice," HFY said quickly. "My people don't force cooperation, but the alternative is problematic. Let me guess. I get handed over to the DEA for debriefing and spend the rest of my life in a government facility?" "Essentially, yes. Unless you can convince them you're no threat and know nothing useful, which would be difficult given what you've already seen." Marcus leaned back in his chair, thinking. What would this diplomatic thing involve? Cultural exchange, primarily. You would work with me to develop better integration protocols for future human-alien contact. Your insights into human psychology and social structures would be invaluable. And in return, protection from your government, access to technologies and knowledge beyond anything currently available on Earth, and the opportunity to help shape how First Contact unfolds for your entire species. It sounded too good to be true, which immediately made Marcus suspicious. "What's the catch?" HFY's expression grew more serious. "You would have to leave Earth for an extended period. The work would be conducted at a neutral research station in what you would call deep space. And..." He hesitated. "And there's no guarantee you would survive the experience. Humans have never been taken so far from your homeworld before. We don't know how your physiology will adapt to long-term space travel and alien environments." Marcus absorbed this information. "How long is extended?" "Minimum 5 years, possibly longer, depending on how the research progresses and how well you adapt." 5 years, Marcus repeated. "And if I say no?" "Then I will recommend to my superiors that you be classified as a friendly contact and left alone. But I can't guarantee your government will extend the same courtesy." Before Marcus could respond, there was a sharp buzzing sound from HFY's room. His roommate's expression immediately became alert. "What's that?" "Proximity alarm. Someone's approaching the building with scanning equipment." HFY stood quickly. "They're back, and this time they brought better toys." Through the window, Marcus could see 3 black vehicles pulling up outside. More agents than before, and they were carrying what looked like serious hardware. "Time to decide, Marcus," HFY said urgently. "Do we run, or do you turn me over to them?" Marcus looked at his friend, alien, spy, research partner, whatever he was, and realized the decision had been made days ago, maybe even months ago. He'd just been too afraid to admit it. "We run," he said. HFY's human disguise dropped completely, revealing his true alien form. "Then we go now. Take only what you can carry in one bag." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere your government can't follow." Marcus grabbed a backpack and started throwing in essentials. Clothes, his laptop, a few personal items. As he packed, he could hear heavy footsteps in the hallway outside, and the distinctive sound of electronic equipment being set up. "Ready?" HFY asked. "No," Marcus said honestly. "But let's do it anyway." Zeph-Hi moved to his bedroom and placed his hand on what appeared to be a blank wall. The surface shimmered and opened, revealing a space that definitely hadn't been there before. Inside was what looked like the control room of a very small spacecraft. "Personal transport," Zeph-Hi explained. "Standard equipment for deep cover operatives. It's been phase-shifted to occupy the same space as your apartment without actually displacing it." "That's not possible," Marcus said automatically. "Your science will understand it eventually. Right now, we need to leave." The apartment door exploded inward just as they stepped into the alien craft. Marcus caught a glimpse of Agent Mills and her team storming in before Zeph-Hi sealed the entrance behind them. The interior of the ship was surprisingly spacious, with walls that curved in impossible directions and surfaces that seemed to shift between solid and transparent. Zeph-Hi moved to what was obviously a control console and began manipulating holographic interfaces. "Initiating phase shift," he announced. "Hold on to something." Marcus gripped the nearest surface, just as reality seemed to fold in on itself. For a moment that lasted either forever or no time at all. He felt like he was being turned inside out. Then everything stabilized, and they were somewhere else entirely. Through the transparent walls of the craft, Marcus could see stars, not the faint pinpricks visible from Earth's surface, but brilliant points of light scattered across an infinite black canvas. And there, growing larger by the moment, was a structure that defied description. It looked like someone had taken a city and wrapped it around the inside of a sphere, with buildings and walkways extending in all directions, regardless of gravity. Ships of various sizes moved between docking ports, and Marcus could see figures moving along the walkways, some humanoid, others decidedly not. "Welcome to Station Harmony," Zeph-Hi said, "one of the major diplomatic hubs for this sector of the galaxy." Marcus stared in amazement. "How many species are represented here?" 47 at last count. It's specifically designed for interspecies cooperation and research." As they approached the station, Marcus could see the incredible diversity of life forms moving about their business. Tall, graceful beings like Zeph-Hi walked alongside creatures that looked like living crystals, floating jellyfish-like entities, and things that seemed to be made of pure energy. "This is where you want me to work?" Marcus asked. "This is where humanity's future will be shaped," Zeph-Hi replied. "The research we conduct here will determine how your species is integrated into the galactic community. Your perspective as someone who formed a genuine friendship with an alien will be invaluable." Their ship docked with a soft thump, and Zeph-Hi led Marcus through an airlock into the station proper. The gravity was comfortable, and the air smelled faintly of something Marcus couldn't identify. Not unpleasant, just alien. "The atmospheric mix has been adjusted for human physiology," Zeph-Hi explained. "There are several other humans here already, though you're the first to arrive under these circumstances." "What circumstances did the others arrive under?" "Mostly abduction cases that couldn't be resolved through memory modification. A few volunteers from government contact programs. 1 or 2 refugees from various conflicts." They walked through corridors filled with beings Marcus couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams. Yet somehow, it didn't feel threatening. There was a sense of purpose here, of different species working together toward common goals. "How do you handle communication?" Marcus asked, noticing that he could understand conversations happening around him despite the speakers clearly not being human. "Universal translators," Zeph-Hi said, tapping a small device attached to his collar. "The technology analyzes neural patterns and translates thoughts into comprehensible concepts. You'll need to wear one while you're here." They stopped at what looked like an information kiosk, where a being that resembled a cross between a butterfly and a praying mantis handed Marcus a translator device. The moment he put it on, the alien's words became clear. "Welcome to Station Harmony, Human Marcus. I am Coordinator Zeiss. Zeph-Hi has told us much about you." "He has?" Your friendship has been the subject of considerable discussion among our research teams. Interspecies emotional bonds are rare and scientifically significant. Marcus looked at HFY. You've been talking about our friendship? It was part of my reports, HFY said, looking slightly embarrassed. The way you reacted to discovering my true nature challenged several established theories about human psychology. Coordinator Zis gestured with what might have been arms. Come, human Marcus, we will show you to your quarters and begin your orientation. There is much to learn. As they walked deeper into the station, Marcus marveled at the technology around him. Walls that displayed real-time images of distant worlds. Transportation systems that moved people through what seemed like folded space. Gardens where plants from dozens of worlds grew in impossible harmony. This is incredible, he murmured. This is just the beginning, HFY replied. If the integration studies go well, places like this could exist in your solar system within a few decades. And if they don't go well? Then humanity continues to develop in isolation until you're ready for contact on your own terms. It could take centuries. Marcus stopped walking. You're saying the future of human contact with alien civilizations depends partly on whether I can do this job? Partly, yes. But you won't be working alone. There's a full research team, including other humans who've been here for years. Your role is important, but not critical. They reached a residential section where the architecture was more familiar, clearly designed with human comfort in mind. HFY showed Marcus to a suite of rooms that were larger and more comfortable than his apartment back on Earth. This is yours for as long as you're here, HFY said. And Marcus? My quarters are right next door. We're still roommates in a way. Marcus smiled. Some roommate. You brought me to an alien space station. You said you wanted things to be interesting. I did say that, didn't I? Marcus looked around his new home, then out the transparent wall that showed the incredible vista of the station and the stars beyond. So what happens now? Now we begin the real work. Understanding how humans and aliens can coexist, how to prevent the mistakes that have been made with other species, how to help your people prepare for a much larger universe than they ever imagined. And Agent Mills and her people? Still searching for an alien spy who's no longer on Earth. Eventually they'll give up and classify the case as resolved through subject relocation. Marcus nodded, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and loss. His old life was gone forever, but the possibilities ahead were beyond anything he'd ever dreamed. One more question, he said. When this is all over, when humanity is ready for open contact, will I be able to go home? HFY was quiet for a moment. I don't know, he said honestly. But by then, you might not want to. The universe is very large, Marcus, and Earth is just one small part of it. You might find that home is wherever you choose to make it. Marcus looked out at the stars again, thinking about the strange journey that had brought him here. 6 months ago, he'd been a warehouse worker worried about rent. Now he was a human ambassador to the galaxy, living on a space station with aliens who had become his friends. You know what the funny thing is? He said. What's that? I never did figure out why you were humming in your room at 3 in the morning. HFY laughed, the sound carrying harmonics that Marcus was only now learning to appreciate. I was homesick. The humming was a meditation technique from my homeworld. It helps with loneliness. Well, Marcus said, settling into a chair that somehow molded itself perfectly to his body. I guess neither of us has to be lonely anymore. Outside his window, the vast wheel of the station continued its rotation, carrying beings from dozens of worlds through their daily lives. Ships arrived and departed carrying diplomats, researchers, and explorers to destinations Marcus couldn't pronounce. And somewhere out there, Earth continued spinning in its little corner of space, unaware that one of its children was now helping to shape its cosmic future. Marcus Chen, former warehouse worker, current human ambassador, smiled and began to plan for tomorrow. After all, someone had to help figure out how to introduce humanity to its new neighbors. And despite the impossibility of it all, he was starting to think he might actually be good at the job. The universe, as it turned out, was a much friendlier place than he'd ever imagined. You just had to be willing to trust your alien roommate.